American troops that went to Vietnam, the vast majority of them experienced a harrowing and horrifying experience. It was quite a shocker for many of them. Even though many of these soldiers that didn't want to be there in the first place, they at least thought that they were going to be embraced more by the locals there, and that was far from the truth. Many learned firsthand that they didn't know who their actual enemies were because they were being fired in all directions. You had the North Vietnamese obviously attacking them, but then you had the Viet Cong, who was supported by many in the South. And then you actually had South Vietnamese people themselves using booby traps to blow American soldiers up. It was actually a common theme. I mean, that you had children giving gifts to American soldiers, but in those gifts were explosives, and the child would blow up, but their purpose was to take out the American soldiers there. So you had no idea who was really your ally there. And so this brought a lot of fear and a lot of consternation for a lot of our American troops there, because they didn't know what they were fighting for, because they weren't welcome there. They were lied to. Or they saw American soldiers getting trapped with booby traps that the Viet Cong built, seeing the constant barrage of ambush in the jungles by the Viet Cong, or the surprising force of the North Vietnamese and how many numbers they had. Also, what shocked a lot of Americans is the ineffectiveness of the South Vietnamese army. It is an unfortunate reality, but the experience that many American soldiers had is that the South Vietnamese weren't willing to defend their country. I remember talking, hearing stories about my uncle fighting in Vietnam, where they had a position there, and then when the North Vietnamese attacked them, the South Vietnamese ran from their post and left the Americans to defend it. And so they were able to win that. They were actually able to defend that, but nevertheless, that shocked a lot of the American soldiers, that a lot of the South Vietnamese that they were supposed to be their allies ran away from it. And so when they came back home, they didn't receive a welcome. In fact, you had a lot of protesters, viscerally angry with them and taking out the lies that the government said to them, basically saying that they were puppets, that they were baby killers, and they were given harsh treatment by the American public. Now, this got rectified, but it got rectified decades later. And it is actually one of the more tragic stories of the Vietnam War. It's actually a sad moment in American history.